Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, it's episode 4 of my series looking at my top 5 pens. Today's episode, it's about pens between 1 and 200 Australian dollars. So join me now, down on the mat, and let's jump straight on in. So here we are down on the mat, let's jump in and look at the first of my top 5 pens between 100 and 200 Australian dollars. So the first pen goes to this. This is the Opus 88 Koloro. This is in a gorgeous blue and teal colour. I really like the looks of this. It's a nice simple pen, there's nothing fancy about it. We've just got these chunks of colour. Silver clip is quite stiff. This is an eyedropper pen. I need to have this valve open. The valve is there because it seals off the barrel from the section, so you don't lose all your ink if you should have a leak. Just taking that cap off, let's take a quick look here at the nib. So the nib is fairly small, it's a number 5 size nib. We've got a little bit of decoration around the side. Underneath the breather hole, we've got Opus 88. And then broad, because this is a broad nibbed pen. As I said, this is an eyedropper, so I'm not going to open it up, but hopefully you can see here, there's the ink. There's not a lot of ink left in this pen. It's a nice, comfortable pen to hold. Here it is in my hand, so this is unposted, really comfortable to use. The pen will post. To me, it makes it feel a bit unwieldy, but your way of doing things may be different than mine. Let's do a little bit of writing. So here we have the Opus 88. The model is the Koloro. It's got a broad nib and it costs 120 Australian dollars. The ink by Diamine, and it's Jack Frost. A lovely blue ink. But it's got quite a nice red sheen to it as well. Hopefully, as this ink dries, we'll start to see this. Let me just move the mic to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. This is a nice smooth writing pen. I enjoy the way it feels. There's a bit of drag as you're writing, so it's not a glassy smooth experience. This nib, it actually was smoother, but I was finding, especially on rhodia paper, it would skip a bit. So I just used a bit of a rough micro mesh just to add a little bit of texture into that writing, and that seems to have solved that issue. So this paper, it's in a Garland leather notepad and it's 52 GSM paper. So I'm calling out a lot of what I've already said. We had some issues with skipping on rhodia paper. We were able to sort that out with that micro mesh. The pen, as I said, it's smooth. It's really nice to write with. As I showed you, it fits nicely in my hand. It's nice and comfortable. Might be better if it was just a little bit wider. I find at times that section is a bit too narrow for me. I love the ink in here. I love the Diamine Jack Frost. I'd like it if there was a bit more of that red sheen coming through, because even on this paper there's not a lot of that sheen apparent. As a combo, I really like this. I think the pen and the ink, they look and work well together. At the very bottom where the hash mark is, I do that as a test for wetness. So I do the hash mark, then a hash mark that I swipe straight away, and then do a scribble, and again a scribble that I wipe straight away. On this page above it, but most pages is below, I do a test to see for line variation. So the first 3 lines is no pressure, and the second 3 lines, that's with some pressure. I do some figure S's, then the scribbles. Again, other pages you'll find the scribbles right at the bottom. That's to test for ink flow, to see if I can do a whole load of writing without the ink running out. And this, as we go through, you'll see on all my test pages. But I really like this. Back on this optic paper, this is optic paper, and it's actually a black and red notebook. You can just about see some of that red sheen coming through. Certainly there on the word Opus 88, it looks quite nice. But it's not really in your face. Now, I know there are some where it really does jump out at you, and they're the ones I actually prefer, but even so, this is quite nice. So this is the Opus 88 Koloro. It's got a broad nib and Diamine Jack Frost. The second pen today, well, I often refer to this as the big boy. This is by Ranga, and it's a Ranga Model 5. I love the colouring of this, the green and the black together, it looks so nice. Then we've got little bits of like greys and whites coming in. Actually looks quite interesting. It's a big pen. I'm just going to fetch in that Koloro again, just so you can see. It's massive, isn't it? But it's quite a light pen. This is a acrylic, and I love it. Take the cap off. You know, even the section, nice and thick. It's so comfortable to hold. One of the things I do find awkward, at the bottom there's this fairly steep, hopefully you can see that. It's really steep, and most of the time my finger's fine, but sometimes if my finger slips down a bit too much, I find it does dig in. So it can make it quite a bit, I'm not going to say painful, but uncomfortable if you're doing a longer writing session. Ranga offer a wide range of different nibs. I chose this one. This is a Ranga nib. You can also get Bork or Yoho. They even do titanium nibs. I'd love to try one of those. It's a lovely writing pen for all that. It fits nice in my hand. You may have seen that already. It's light. You know it's there, but it's not over heavy. Let's just do a quick bit of writing. So here we have a Ranga Model 5, again with a broad nib. All my pens today, they've all got broad nibs. This costs 142 Australian dollars. The ink is by Kirby, and it's number 60, which is Foreign Museum Green. I've run out of space to write the word green. It's squeezed in there. I love this pen. I'm just not sure about this ink. It's a bit on the pale side for me, which is a shame because the actual look of it and the tone of it looks really nice. I'll move the mic so you can hear the pen write. So this is another nib where you can hear the feedback. You can certainly feel the feedback as you're writing. It's not so much that it feels scratchy. It's not catching on the paper, but you can certainly feel it going over the texture of the paper. And I quite like that. On this paper, as I say, the ink doesn't look too bad. But let's jump over and look at the Tomoe River paper. And on here, it's just so light. In this notebook, I do use both sides of a page. So you could maybe say, well, Gary, just use one side, but I can see through to the other side. Now, yes, I know I'm just seeing the writing that's on the other side. I haven't tried it when there's nothing on the other side, so maybe that's another experiment I need to do. But for me, certainly on Tomoe River paper, this ink and pen just don't work. I love the size of this pen. Again, I know I'm calling it out here. It just fits so nicely in my hand. I love that it's so big. Again, it's so comfortable at the same time. Now, I'm just going to switch back to the normal camera. And if I can get in, there you go, that was a bit stiff today. Just going to take off the barrel. So this, at the moment, I've got a cartridge converter with, I've still got a fair bit of ink in there. The beauty with this pen, no metal fittings, got a lot of threads, got room at the bottom there where you could put an O-ring. This pen can be easily eyedroppered, and I think it would work really well eyedroppered. Saying that, I haven't tried that. The issue I've got, if I eyedroppered this, it would take so much ink, I don't think I'd ever use it. But again, it's worth bearing in mind. So this is pen number 2, the Ranga Model 5 with Kirby number 60 Foreign Museum Green. Just move this paper up slightly. I've For those wondering why I've got this card here, it's just so hot at the moment where I live that my hands are sweating and they stick to the paper. So whilst I'm writing, I'm actually resting on this card to hopefully stop me from sticking to the paper and getting hand oil all over the paper. Our next pen, which is pen number 3. This is from Taiwan and it's a Laban 325 in the Cambridge brown colour. Just going to give this a slow turn. I love the looks of this. Can you see here we've got this gorgeous colouring. Yeah, we've got that pearlescent type colour in there. Then that pearlescent goes away and we've got normal. I love the look of this pen. I love the colour actually. It's brown. I never thought I'd like brown pens and brown inks, but I've really got into them. Let's take the cap off. Here we are. That will reveal this nib. So this is a Laban nib. It's a lovely gold colour, isn't it? And then it's again got that simple writing on there. So we've got 3952, Laban and Germany. Then again, underneath that, we've got B for broad. Let's take off the body. Again, this one, it's got that converter in there. It's Laban branded. Metal fittings. Unfortunately, you will never be able to wear a drop of this. Well, you could, but I don't know how long it would last with that metal fitting. So let's do our writing again. So we've got here a Laban 325 with a broad nib, and this costs 146 Australian dollars. The ink is by Herbin. And it's Terre de Frere. I know I keep mangling that last word. I'm not sure if it should be pronounced few, fouet. Somebody did suggest it might be like feu, as in with an R. I'm not very good at French, so I can't 100% say. But it stands for Land of Fire, which I think sounds really nice. It's quite a nice brown ink, and there's a lot of shading that you can see already. And I do find there's a bit of a red tone to it as well, which is quite pleasant. Now, before I do my other writing sample, I should have shown you this at the start. It's shorter than the other two pens. Still fits nicely in my hand. It's not overly big. Again, you can post it, but not very successfully. I'll show you again. This time I pushed it on, but even a little tap and it comes off. So just be aware of that. Anyway, back to the writing. I'll move the microphone. Apologies for the background noise. Hopefully I'll be able to get rid of most of it when I'm editing. It's at the moment it's 7:45 in the morning. I have to have the patio door into my room open because it's so hot. If I closed it, I'd end up sweating that much you wouldn't believe. And it's also bin day, so you can hear the bin lorry going around collecting the bins. So hopefully I'll get rid of most of that. But I thought I'll just let you know just in case. So as we can see here, we've got a load of lovely shading coming through. I know I mentioned that a second ago. And if we look at, say, here where we've got the first E, this is where I start to see some red coming through. Only a little bit, but if you look for it, I can certainly see it. Of the 3 pens we've looked at so far, this pen is by far the smoothest. It's still not glassy smooth, but you can feel it gliding over the paper. There's a lot less feedback. I'm not 100% certain if I like it, because to me, it does feel a bit overly glassy, but as long as you're aware of it, that's fine. And it doesn't stop it writing. At the end of the day, all that matters is the pen lets us get ideas out of our head and onto paper, and we enjoy the process of doing it. Let's take a look at the Tomoe River paper. Well, on here, I don't see as much shading. I do see some, but I don't know why. Maybe it's the way that I had the light when I took this photo, but certainly on this picture, it doesn't look like there's a lot there. As we can see when I was writing on the optic paper, there definitely is. This ink colour is really nice. I was a bit surprised about it. When I saw it, I thought, yeah, it looks like a brown, that's why I bought it. But once I had it in the pen, it's quickly becoming one of my favourite browns. You know, my preference up to now has been Robert Oster Cafe Crema. And I'm not going to say this has taken over that. but it's certainly getting close to that. I think the ink colour, well, it does actually match that pen nice. You know, we've got the shading coming through, we've got the browns, which matches the colouring, certainly in the body where we've got different shades there. Again, I've called out here, it's nice in the hand when it's unposted, but when I post it, it does feel clumsy. And as you saw, it's really easy to knock that cap off. Look at the bottom. So it's a wetter ink than we looked at in the previous one. Let's take a look at the line variation. So we've got, fairly thin lines where there wasn't a lot of pressure. We do see wider lines, and certainly that comes through in the figures of 8. And at the very bottom where we've got my scribble, no problem with the ink flow keeping up. So overall, I like this combination. I like the pen. I like the ink. So this is a Laban 325 with J. Herbin Terre de Fouet. Pen number 4. Bit of a colour change. We've gone from that brown up to this gorgeous bright blue pen. So here we've got blues, we've got whites, we've got some silvers and greys. This pen, as you can see from the clip, it's a Visconti pen, and it's the Visconti Breeze. This pen surprised me. Again, I wasn't sure when I ordered it if it would be something I'd like. I wanted to try a Visconti, so that's why I ordered it. It was the cheapest Visconti I could find. I'm pleasantly surprised by it. But saying that, with virtually every pen I get, I'm pleasantly surprised. Let's pull the cap off. Now this cap is different than the others. All the others we were screwing the cap off. This one, it pulls off. But it's a little bit tough to pull it, so I'm putting some pressure on, and then eventually it will go. That's because this is a magnetic cap. So to demonstrate that, I've taken the cap off. I'm going to slowly, just gently tap the end, and then eventually the magnet will catch. And there's the cap back on. So it's not easy to pull off, but it doesn't require an over amount of pressure. Let's take a look at the nib. So we're going back to a small nib on this. Again, I would say this is a number 5 nib. It's a steel nib. It's quite a pleasant nib to write with, which we'll see in a second. As we can see, we've got a little bit of straw work there, a little bit of decoration. Then we've got Visconti, and again, it's a broad nib. Lately, I've been buying a lot of broad nibbed pens because I'm finding for me, this is the width that I'm preferring at the moment. Let's see the pen right though. So we have here a Visconti Breeze. We have a broad nib on it, and the pen was 163 Australian dollars. The ink is by Diamine, and it's Aqua Lagoon. I love the colour of this ink. It's a gorgeous bright blue colour, maybe tending towards turquoise, and we've got again loads of shading coming through. Again, I forgot to show you this pen in my hand, so let's have a quick look at it in the hand. As you can see here, it's shorter again. It's still comfortable, it still just about fits. It will post, but I find posted it feels back heavy, and again it feels clumsy. But it's just about right when it's unposted. It's another cartridge converter, again with metal fittings. At the bottom of the section, there's nothing there to stop your fingers from riding down. Personally, I like that because I find a lot of these lips dig into my finger, but I tend to hold my pens really low down. So this one, perfect for writing with. Let's get back to some writing. I'll move the mic. I love writing with this pen. There's a little bit of feedback, so there's a little bit of drag on the page. You can really feel it coming through the nib. Not as smooth as a Laban 325, but not as rough as the Opus 88 Koloro or the Ranga Model 5. It's a really nice pen to write with. It's a nice fit in the hand. It's nice colours. I really love the colours of this. Let's take a look at the Tomoe River paper. This is another one where I'm calling out on here. Near the top, that unposted, it feels a little bit short. Posted, it's too long, so it's not quite got that right hand feel for me. The ink coming out of this, very similar to the previous one. On the optic paper, I see quite a bit of shading, but it doesn't come through as much on this Tomoe River paper, which is a shame because I love the shading that I'm seeing on the optic paper. I do think the ink colour really complements the pen. So the ink is that little bit brighter blue, but when you see the two together with the white, it looks really nice. And I'll show you that when we go back to the optic paper. The nib, as I said, is fairly smooth, tiniest amount of feedback. It's enjoyable. I like writing with this pen. Ink flow is really good. Not had any issues with any skipping, with hard starts. It just writes and writes and writes. If we look at the bottom of the page, again, we've got a fairly wet combo here. Line variation, again, seeing some, comes through more when I'm doing my figure of eights. So you can see where I'm going down, I've got that thicker line, and then it goes thinner as I come up. Looks really nice, especially when you're writing with it. I like seeing that variation. Same with the shading and sheening for sheening inks. I like to see the differences because to me, that fetches interest to the writing you do. At the very bottom, I've got my scribble. Again, you can see the ink flow keeps up really, really well. So as I said, here's the combination with the pen and the ink. I think they look really nice together. I've tried a number of different inks in this pen. Again, all of them performed exceptional. Not had any issues with any of them. So this is the Visconti Breeze with Diamine Aqua Lagoon. Just going to move the book ever so slightly so we can get the last pen in. So pen number 5. It's a sparkly pen. Here we go. Let's see if I can get that up there for you. This is a BENU Talisman in Dragon's Blood. Let me just turn this around. Hopefully the camera's capturing all the sparkles. We've got reds, we've got greens, we've got the black of the main background colour. This to me is a Christmas pen. It really is. I mean, look at it. Doesn't that just shout Christmas to you where you've got them greens and reds coming through? Let's take the cap off, take a look at the nib. So we're back to the larger size nibs. This is by Schmidt. It's a gorgeous nib here. So we've got a little bit of a decorative border there. Underneath that, we've got the B for BENU. Then we've got Schmidt and Iridium Point. This is another broad nib. There's nothing marked on the pen to say what size the nib is, which to me, that's one of the things I don't like when you can't 100% say it's a broad. Let's take a look at the pen in my hand. So this, I would say, slightly longer than the Laban 325, but shorter than the Opus 88 Koloro. Still a nice fit. It's a fairly thin pen. It will post quite nicely. Again, I find it's too long. This is another one where we've got a cartridge converter. Plastic fittings though, so this is something where, again, I think I could eyedropper it if I wanted to. But to be honest, I've never felt that need. I quite like it with that converter because, you know, I can change my ink more often if I want to. Saying that, with this pen, I've come up with what I think is the perfect combination, and I don't see me changing it for a while, and you'll see when I do my writing. So, talking about writing, let's dig on in. We have a BENU Talisman. As I said, this is in Dragon's Blood. Broad nib. And this cost me 167 Australian dollars. The ink is by Diamine. And it was part of the 2021 ink event. And it's Garland. I love this ink. I really do. I love the colours. And I'm not sure if it's drying off enough yet. But we've got a gorgeous red sheen coming through with the ink. And I think it matches this. So we've got the green of the background colour, then that little bit of red sheen coming through. I'll show you it once it's had time to dry. Let me move the mic so you can hear the pen write. In terms of writing performance for smoothness, this matches what I see from that Laban 325. I love it. I love the writing and I love the way it feels in my hand. I love the glide over the paper, but with that little tiny, I want to call it a pencil-like feedback. Feels really nice. Let's jump on over to the Tomoe River paper. So in this photo, you can see some of that sheen coming through. Just look at the word BENU and the N and the U, or the Diamine. Talisman has got it. There's lots of red sheen coming through on this picture. It seems to fade as we go down the page, but when you see it in real life, it's all over the page. I love this combo. This, to me, is the perfect ink for this pen. And it's one, I hope I can get a big bottle of it because I don't even want to think about trying a different ink in this pen. I really like the combo. I love the ink colour. I love the green of it. I love the way we've got loads of red sheen in. It really jumps off the page to me. If we take then a look at the bottom, you can see again it's a wet combination, something I have to be aware of if I'm going to be writing a lot of pages. Line variation, I don't think there's as much as I've seen in other pens, but it's there. You know, certainly on the S's we can see that coming out really well. And then the flow lines at the bottom, writes and writes and writes, don't have any issues with it. As I said, I do love this. I love the colour. I'm going to show it again. Look there, we've got all them sparkles. One of my issues with this is it doesn't look very professional to take to a meeting. Imagine you sat in a boardroom, you pull this out and people, well, I just think they'll stare at you as if to say, what's that idiot got in his hand? I do think it's too sparkly. For using at home, I love it. For using around Christmas, I think it's perfect. It's got them perfect colours. The rest of the year, as I say, I can't really see it leaving my desk at home. But that's fine because I love writing with it at home. Let's just take a quick look here. Can we see some of that sheen coming through? Hopefully this comes through on the camera. BENU, Talisman, the broad. Yeah, we've got it coming through really well all the way through that page. So this is the BENU Talisman with the broad nib and Diamine Garland. Just going to slightly reposition this paper just so you can see a little bit of each of the pens and inks. So the pens we've looked at today, we've got the Opus 88 Koloro, we've got the big boy, the Ranga Model 5, the Laban 325, the Visconti Breeze, and the BENU Talisman. So which pen is going to be the winner for today? This one, well, like most weeks, it's so difficult to decide. I love the BENU Talisman. I just don't think it's very professional. I enjoy the Visconti Breeze. My problem with it, it's a bit too short. I love the colouring of the Laban 325. I love the way it feels in my hand. I love the way it writes. With the Ranga, I love the size. It's such a perfect hand fit. I love that it's wider than the others, so I don't feel my fingers are cramping on it. It's enjoyable to use for long-term writing. I love the simplicity of the Opus 88 Koloro. You know, I really do enjoy using it. I'm just a bit disappointed with the Jack Frost ink, but I do have a Pure Pens John Frost to try in this once this is out, and the John Frost in my other pens has shown a lot more in the way of the sheen. But in terms of the winner for today, the winner is the Laban 325, if it will stay. There we go, managed to get to stop rolling off. So the Laban 325, that will be going forward to the grand final, where it will compete with the winners of all the other price ranges. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What do you think to my winner? What do you think to my choice of the top 5? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit that thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.